Thanks, Tim, and rare earths as well. So just to reiterate that, we are a gold and base metals and rare earth explorer in New South Wales. We have recently expanded a little bit, and we're starting to put our feelers out into Queensland as well. If we could just move on to the next slide, and the next one after that, that's the typical disclaimer. So just a bit of an overview of the investment highlights and how we see them. So we are focused in that critical minerals space, green technologies for the future. And a part of that is not just the rare earth projects, but also our copper and zinc, which are a part of that story as well. So Godolphin entered into an earn-in agreement over the Narrabri rare earth project only about 11 months ago now, 10 months ago, and we've made a lot of progress on that project in that period of time. It has been our main focus, but in the background, we've been working away on our other copper gold projects because we have this multi-discovery pipeline strategy where we actually work on multiple projects at the one time. The idea with that is that we always have new fresh projects and new fresh prospects coming up. If one doesn't cut the mustard, we can quite easily make that determination, kick it out of the pipeline, and there'll be something else to take its place. So last year we completed actually 2 different diamond drill programs. The second one was 27 holes, the first one was just 4. Now, an interesting thing about Godolphin, which is quite unique to a junior explorer, is that we actually have 3 different MRE, so that's mineral resource estimates, so a defined resource over 3 different projects, and the total value of that is 519 kilo ounces of gold. So we already have that in our inventory, where most explorers just have prospects and projects that aren't confirmed. Another unique thing about Godolphin is our location. So we are based not in Sydney, not in Perth. We're actually based where our projects are, out here in central West New South Wales in Orange, and our team are from here as well. So we have a base of locally based team of experts who work on these projects. They've been in this area for a long time. They understand what we're looking for. They've probably worked in a mine that was mining those kinds of products, which really sets us in a good space. And we are well funded at the moment. So next slide, please. Just a quick corporate snapshot, just to let you know that we still, we did do a cap raise last year, but we still don't have that many shares on issue. So we have quite a tight corporate structure with our major shareholders as well. Top 20 there, you can see holding 48%. So next slide, please. So getting into where our tenements actually are, you can see the Lachlan transverse zone there is quite important part of the Lachlan fold belt here in New South Wales, and it really is, the country where everyone wants to be. It hosts major mines like Cadia, North Parks, the Tamingli Gold Project, as well as the Dubbo Zirconia project from Australian Strategic Materials. And also we have all the tenements there in red are the Godolphin 100% owned tenements. We have a joint venture with Orange Minerals over a gold project at Kalari, which they're managing, but we own the tenement. And down there at Narrabri, which is the tenement in green. Now, this is the joint venture that we entered into last year with a private company, and you can see that area is actually well sought after by major explorers. So we've got Newmont and Sandfire on our doorstep there. And we have got active work programs across all of these tenements, which keeps us all very busy. So next slide, please. What wasn't on that map is our 2 new rare earth tenements that we've recently picked up. The Queensland process is slightly different to New South Wales. So we have been giving the EPM number, but we have to still do a couple of extra steps before it's fully approved. But we're working through that process. And the tenement there in the New England belt up in New South Wales. And we identified these areas by taking the exploration criteria of both Narrabri and the Dubbo Zirconia project, applying that criteria to publicly available data from both the New South Wales and Queensland governments, and highlighted areas that weren't under tenement, and then we pegged that ground. So a really exciting opportunity for new discoveries, which is a good way of being able to optimise the company's value. Next slide, please. So this is just to give you a bit of an idea of the massive amounts of work that has been done in the past 12 months. I'm not going to go through it a lot, but you can see that we have made a lot of progress, specifically in the last 3 months of last year, where we actually drilled 27 diamond drill holes at Narrabri. It was pretty much a air core program done with the diamond drill rig, and it was in very challenging conditions, very, very wet, and we had to pivot our way of thinking and come up with really novel ideas of how we can get people and people in, drilling done, and products out safely and within a good time frame. So that was great. We had the core was all sampled and sent up to assay. We had the assays back, and we have already released those results, which have been quite spectacular. Next slide, please. Just a bit of an overview of Narrabri to start off with. You can see there from that picture, it's just in a paddock. It's really a great location. That picture is I took that on my first site visit. I'm standing on a bitumen road where 12 k's from Temora, which is a small regional town. We're not far from infrastructure. It really is a great project location. What we could see from the previous work that had been done there is that they hadn't done a good job of their exploration. So they hadn't drilled to bedrock. There was a lot of room for upside. The resource was open, so we were quite keen to get a hold of this project. Next slide, please. One of the other reasons is that we didn't find it. It was already there, and it had already been recognised by the Australian government. So this map, if you Google the website addresses are on the bottom of the slide there. This map comes up and it tells you all about the different Australian critical minerals processes and operating mines and deposits around Australia, and Narrabri is sitting in there as a rare earth resource. So, as much as what, there was some things around the project that we had concerns about. We knew there was mineralisation there. We could see so much opportunity to make this thing bigger and confirm those previous results. So next slide, please. Maybe just click again and you'll get the map. Yep, thanks. So we did the first 4 holes, and originally we had designed an air core program for this to completely cover a larger area than that yellow outline, which indicates the extent of the previously identified mineralisation. And because of the conditions on site, we just couldn't do that. We wouldn't have been able to get our end goal, which was a 2012 JORC compliant resource. So what we did do was 4 holes, which gave us diamond core, which we could then send off for mineralogy and metallurgical test work. So the first stages, which is really important in rare earth kind of projects. You need to understand how the rare earths are hosted within your rocks and how you can get them out. So we did that, and that was quite successful. And then when we looked, and we still needed more drilling to update our resource, we went, okay, well, let's try and make this happen again. So we drilled another 27 holes. Of those, total of 31 holes, we ended up with only 3 that didn't hit mineralisation, and basically because they went straight into the bedrock. One of the other things that we found when we were drilling here is that it's not all the same bedrock under this whole area. So that's really interesting as well. And hole number 22, which is to the north, the most northern hole, actually intersected bonanza grades of rare earth metals, rare earth elements, and specifically some of the important battery metals like the ND and PR, which are really important for EV cars. So what we have been able to do is drill a whole bunch of holes outside of the known mineralisation, that intersected mineralisation. So we already know, without having the resource delivered to us, it's going to be bigger than what we had before. And by doing our 1 metre sampling, we're really going to zone in on how thick these intervals are and where they are. So we found that the rare earths are hosted in both clays and saprock, which is the clay weathered rock. Very technical term, really, that just means it's weathered rock, and you could tell that it was once rock, where clay is just sticky clay. That's about the difference there. So let's move on. Here's a picture of the core with the clay. So you can see it doesn't really look like a typical hard rock mine. It's not. It is just weathered products, and this can go down for 50 or 60 metres or so, and this is where the rare earths are hosted, which is very important. Now, the table on the left there, you'll be able to see the intercepts, and I've only put into this slide the intercepts from the most recent drilling that are over 1,000 ppm TREO, which is total rare earth oxide, which is the mineable product. And that's quite a lot, and several of those are outside of the previous known resource. We obviously had many more results that are economic that are under 1,000, but we don't have time to talk about all of those. So next slide, please. Just want to talk about Yeovil, which is our copper project. We've recently done air mag over the 3 areas highlighted with the yellow circles there. Reason is it's a copper project with a resource that's already there at Yeovil at 12.8 million tonnes at 0.38 copper, 1.4 gold, and we're looking for extensions. Very exciting area. You can see copper and mineralisation at surface when you visit some of these projects like Goodrich and Cyclops, and we're excited to get the drilling happening there. We also received a grant from the government to assist us with drilling costs at Cyclops. Next slide, please. I won't go into this because I think I'm running out of time, but that was the picture at the bottom is of the drill core that we drilled at Cyclops last year, and you can see that massive chalcopyrite, so that high-grade copper, which is what we're following up. So next slide, please. Lewis Ponds is our gold project. It has 6.2 million tonnes at 2 grams per tonne gold. It also has silver, lead, zinc and copper. We are really excited about this project. I'll get you to move on to the next slide, as it should show that it's open. So this is the resource, and you can see the areas in the centre of the resource where those arrows indicate that it's open, and it's also open to the north. So the highest grades are the pink, and you can see that they just stop, and that's not normal in geological terms unless there's a reason for it. So we know it's open to the north and open in those areas. So with some additional drilling, we should be able to make that resource bigger. I'll just leave it there because I'm pretty sure I am short of time there, Tim.
That's okay. I don't mind if you go to the next slide, if there's something you'd like to finish on.
No, that's fine. That's okay.
Okay. Jeneta, thank you. What we see recently is a lot of gold companies kind of pivoting into rare earths, and rare earths, while not that rare, seem to be associated with gold discoveries. It must be a very big learning curve given your focus now is on rare earths. How do you kind of pivot and manage that?
Yeah, and it is a very big learning curve. When we took on the Narrabri project, I mean, it was in our neighbourhood, it was in rocks that we know, and we, ASM 7 kilometres from our tenement boundary, so we already were familiar with it. We were just quite lucky that we were able to get involved in that project when we could, and it was really about relationships and the things that we had at the time. Narrabri isn't associated with gold at all. It is just a rare earth play, and the fact that it's in the weathered portion is really exciting for us because we could just see the upside. It means that there's free digging, cheap mining, and the potential for expedited production. Gold is pretty tricky at the moment, and to get the support for gold only projects is quite hard. We have so many great projects, and we have to prioritise those of what we think is going to bring value to our shareholders at the time. And this project, the Rare Earth project, was undeniably a great one, and we were pretty lucky to get involved with it.
So rare earths is the priority. I mean, you've mentioned the Australian government's recognised the Narrabri project for its critical mineral strategic importance. Is there opportunity to have government funding involved in this project?
Look, there is at different stage gates of the project. We haven't reached any of those stage gates that the government has put out as the criteria for getting funding. It's really, you have to have a certain level of resource, and when we took on this project, it had a non-compliant resource from back in the day. So it just didn't fit the criteria that the government has as their number one. This is the starting point. That being said, when we finish what we're doing, we should be in that space. So we are definitely on top of what funding is available and working towards being able to access some of that.
And where does the gold and the copper projects and zinc sit in that regard now?
Yeah, so we actually did receive government funding for one of our copper projects, because copper is actually a critical mineral as well. So we have received funding to drill out the Cyclops project, or drill some more holes in Cyclops, which is a copper-only project. I think they all work very nicely together, because you can focus on what can bring and what you can leverage at the time, or what's going to bring value to the company. And what we actually do is we work on all of them in the background at the same time in some way or other. So we've actively been working on our copper and gold projects the whole time, where we've been mainly focused on Narrabri. But we have a team of geologists, and we have one that may be focused on Narrabri, and that's where most of our resources are being spent. But we have other people that are actually working in the background and building up those prospects and targets and getting the programs ready to go when we can pull those levers.
And is there the ability to commercialise your copper or gold assets to fund the rare earths discovery?
Not at this stage. Getting a copper and gold project off the ground and into mining does take quite a lot of capital, and it's probably the other way around, that our rare earth project is closer to that stage gate, even though it doesn't have the MRE today. But all our assays are with the resource geologist, and he's working on it at the moment. So it will probably be the one that steps forward first.
And is that the important milestone you're trying to achieve for 2023?
Yes. So ultimately, we have our MRE is about to drop. The resource geologist is working on it at the moment, so that's imminent in this month at some stage. And then we also have some samples that were sent off to ANSTO for metallurgical test work and mineralogical studies, and we will get that in the next couple of months as well. And that will really set us up to show, this really is a project of merit. We have what we said we've always had, and we can actually have a development path in the future.
And just one final question that's come through. Not sure if you mentioned this, but you still have the aim to have the updated JORC for Narrabri this quarter.
Yes, we do, absolutely. Our resource geologist did get a little bit behind, but we've been giving him a weekly call to see how he's going and keep him on track. But no, he has said it will be by the end of the month. So yeah, that's normally you get it, you have to look at it and review it and make sure everything's okay. So there's a bit of backwards and forwards, but definitely will be this quarter.
Jeneta, thanks for telling the story. Fascinating story. Have a nice weekend. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thanks, Tim.